His names, we need to know about them, how to apply them, ponder the meanings behind them.
New class alert! SunnahFollowers presents the names of Allah. Please join us every Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard with Sister Samar. Streaming on all major platforms. Right here, channel SunnahFollowers.
Allah to get a good understanding of those names, their implications, and their impact on our daily lives and also our characters. So what is really unique about those episodes is that we don't only talk theoretically, but we also try to apply the knowledge of those names in our everyday life. So we get to ask ourselves, so now that we understood this specific name, how can we apply this? How could this actually impact our lives? So this is something that we actually try to do. For today's episode, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, let us start. And I usually like to, introduce my PowerPoint presentation to you. So as you can see here, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today's names, there are two names that come along together, and these names are Al-Adl and Al-Muqsit, the just and the equitable, right? So this is a journey, today is a journey into the divine balance of justice and fairness. Hence, this image that we have here of a balance here, this kind of scale in which this balance should be maintained. So let us take it from here. Now, the first thing here is the introduction, how we can seek divine balance. Now, first of all, seeking divine balance is a universal aspiration, right? So in a world often marked by inequality and imbalance, humanity consistently longs for a supreme power capable of restoring true justice and harmony beyond mere human capacity. All right, so that's something that we are all longing for, that's for sure. Whether this is actually applicable in this very life that we live now, that is the question. And we could see that it is actually something that can happen, because we saw it implemented through the Prophet during Prophet's life, والسلام, and also the Sahaba, the followers. All right. So for us to think that this is only theoretical and it is not practical, it is only like fairy tale kind of thing, that is all wrong. It has been implemented, and we have seen this done and practiced through the Prophet's life. Now, the essence of true justice, we delve into a form of justice that doesn't just punish or reward, but profoundly heals. It is rooted in absolute truth, guided by infinite wisdom, and fueled by boundless compassion for all creation. That is the kind of the divine justice and the true kind of justice that we're talking about. Now, the transformative call of divine names, exploring Al-Adl, the just, and Al-Muqsit, the equitable, reveals that these divine names are not just abstract descriptions, but profound invitations for us to reflect, internalize, and strive for personal and societal transformation. Now, to move on from here, we need to consider a few things. Now, first of all, again, let us explore the names a little bit closely. So the divine names, the word Al-Adl in Arabic, it is derived from the root Adl. This name signifies an intrinsic state of perfect balance and absolute truth. It embodies the principle of putting everything in its precisely correct and rightful place, ensuring harmony and order throughout existence. So Al-Adl is about the inherent rectitude and unwavering fairness of the divine subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to be just reflects the inherent righteousness and moral perfection that guides all divine decrees. And to be balanced points to the flawless equilibrium and proportion found in all creation, from cosmic laws to human interactions. Right? So that is the balance that we're talking about. So to place something in its rightful place, that is actually what it means to be just. So it implies a profound wisdom in ordering the universe, where every element serves its intended purpose and contributes to the overall perfection. Now, the equitable, al-muqsit, it stems from the root al-qist, right? The word al-qist. This name refers to the active implementation of fairness and the restoration of equilibrium when imbalance occurs. So al-muqsit specifically addresses injustices, rectifying wrongs, distributing blessings and consequences, precise and compassionate equity, ensuring that no soul has burdened beyond its capacity. And I know once I say this, that some of you would be asking yourself, like, okay, so what about what is going on in the world now? And we'll come to that in a few minutes. All right, so let us just go to the definition of those terms. Now, to be fair denotes the active demonstration of impartiality and just dealing in all situations, leaving no room for prejudice, right? To distribute justly, it highlights the perfect and proportionate allocation of sustenance, trials, and rewards according to divine knowledge and wisdom. Now, something else is to address imbalance and or injustice. Now, for this to happen, it signifies the inactive intervention. The active intervention to correct deviations from justice, bringing back harmony, and providing recompense or consequences. Right. So these are the definitions of those terms at large. Now, let us again go a little bit deeper into how this is actually found or implemented in this universe. Now, the justice as the foundation of the universe. So, and the heaven he raised and set the balance that you may not transgress in the balance. This is, of course, one of the verses of the Quran, and establish the weight with justice and do not make the scale deficient. That is one of the important verses that shows the importance of maintaining justice and balance. Now, we have four main aspects here. Now, the first one is cosmic balance. So the universe operates on an intrinsic balance, from the precise orbits of celestial bodies to the delicate forces governing, the galaxy, and reflecting divine justice in its very structure and ensuring universal harmony. And that is why there are different verses in the Quran that actually addresses us and asks us to contemplate and to, meditate and all that. Something else is the moral and societal equity. So when this inherent balance, whether cosmic, temporal, or biological, is disrupted by human actions or natural phenomena, it leads to imbalance and injustice. So divine justice actively restores equilibrium, ensuring fairness and rectifying wrongs in both individual lives and societies. Right? So this is when God chooses to actually interfere in this current life, because sometimes this is not the case, and God would leave justice and balance and equilibrium for the real life, which is the hereafter. Now, the temporal order, so time itself is governed by divine decree, regulating the rhythmic cycle of days and nights, seasons, and the lifespan of every created thing with meticulous precision. This temporal justice ensures that every moment serves its intended purpose in the grand scheme of things, And then the last concept here is the biological equilibrium. So within every living organism, from the steady beat of the heart to the complex cellular processes, there is an inherent balance, delicate biological equilibrium sustained by divine order, underscores the intricate and the just design within creation itself. So this is how those terms and concepts are actually manifested in this life. And this takes us to the name Al-Adl, the just, right? So again, what does that name specifically mean? Now, there are several allocations. The first thing is the absolute impartiality. So it upholds perfect fairness in all decrees, ensuring no soul is ever wronged, even by an atom's weight. And of course, this is a promise given for the hereafter. And every being receives precisely what is due. All right. Second thing is flawless judgment. So it places everything in its divinely ordained and rightful place without bias or deviation, maintaining cosmic order and harmony. And then we have the perfect equilibrium. So it administers consequences with profound wisdom and meticulous precision. Right. So these are the implementations of the name Al-Just. The just. Now the Al-Muqsit, right? How is it different? A little bit different from the name the just. Now for Al-Muqsit, which is the equitable, first thing, it restores rights with precision, right? So the just it implies the maintenance of precision, whereas for the equitable, it restores the rights with precision. So Al-Muqsit precisely restores rights to their rightful owners, that every individual, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, receives what's justly due to them. And that reminds me, why is it that even the animals, even though they don't have, an eternal life afterwards, but still they will be given another life in the hereafter to do what? To restore their rights. So if, for example, one dog, bit another dog, so dog B has the right to take his, to inflict this kind of pain or to take his right from that other dog. So even the smallest creatures, I'm not talking that dogs are the smallest, even the tiniest creatures that we don't even know about, they will get the chance to maintain, to restore the rights in the hereafter. Something else is addresses imbalance proactively. So when any imbalance, be it societal oppression, natural disruption, individual injustice, Al-Muqsit actively intervenes, not merely to punish, but to re-establish some concept of sustainable state of fairness for all. And again, when will this happen? How will this happen? Is it in this life? Is it in the afterlife? This is all in God's knowledge. We only need to believe in those names, and then the way those names are manifested, the how, the when, is all about God and His own discretion. It is all His decision, right? We don't have to, we don't have to play God. Right? So God is God and we are His slaves, and we do not intervene, we do not judge God. Okay. Next thing is He loves the equitable. So something that we need to understand is that when God states in the Quran the word loves, God loves, I would like you very much to, research this, right? The word loves, God, Allah loves, and see what verses came after that, after this phrase, Allah loves. And you will find that one of those phrases, or one of those verses, is that He loves those who are equitable. So this emphasizes the equity, that equity is not just an attribute of God, but a deeply cherished virtue that believers are encouraged to embody, fostering a community founded on fairness and compassion. And this brings us to a very important notion, that which is equity and equality. And we all know that equality is not really fair, all right? So if all people are getting the same share, young and old, then that is not fair. So to maintain fairness, there should be equity and not equality. So Al-Muqsit's equity extends beyond simple equality, considering each unique context, historical injustices, and the healing required for true restoration. That is how different God treats each one of us. So, for example, one person might be very rich, very wealthy, and another one is deprived from that, wealth. Does that mean that God, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is unjust? Of course not. But He knows. He is the all-knowing. So He knows exactly what is right for me and what is right for you. And in various instances, it has been proven that being wealthy and rich does not actually mean that this is the good thing for you in all cases, for all people, right? So it differs. He knows best. So I leave it for him to decide. I leave it for him to to divide the wealth among us. I'm sure you know that there's a huge difference between the divine justice versus human justice, all right? So just a quick glance on that. For example, human justice, if there's anything like that, actually. So human justice is limited in knowledge. It is prone to error. There is always incomplete information. It could be judging only on outward acts. Whereas divine justice, Al-Adl, is all-knowing, so he's all-seeing. He comprehends intentions, hidden circumstances, the full scope of the whole thing. Humans, the human justice may be biased, of course, influenced by personal gain or delayed, can lead to inconsistent outcomes, whereas Al-Adl never forgets or overlooks, ensuring perfect impartiality and timelessness, upholding fairness without deviation. Human justice primarily is punitive or procedural, focused on adherence to, the codified kind of law and punishment for transgressions. Whereas al-Muqsit is balanced with mercy, wisdom, and truth. And that is why, for some people in the hereafter, we'll see that their wrongdoings, because of pure intended retribution, will actually change and alter to being a set of good deeds. And that is something that is incomprehensible. How can that happen? Believing that he is al-Muqsit, we will know, even if we don't really know, but we will believe in his deeds to be Muqsit, to be balanced, to be just. For the human justice, here says, it often creates new imbalances or fails to fully rectify past wrongs. And you've seen this, of course, in several human applied laws. Whereas the Muqsit proactively addresses imbalance, ensuring every entity receives what it needs to thrive for true restoration and sustainable equity, right? So we don't really have to, give examples on the deficiency and the flawlessness in the human justice versus, of course, divine justice. All right, so again, the interplay of Al-Adl and Al-Muqsit. So Al-Adl just establishes universal order based on perfect knowledge and impartiality, right? Something else is the imbalance. It arises from human transgressions, pride and corruption, disrupting the inherent harmony of creation. And al-Muqsit, the equitable, proactively intervenes to restore that kind of harmony, right? So Al-Adl lays the foundation of universal justice, while al-Muqsit actively rectifies any deviation, right? So this is how to put it in short. Now comes the important question of our sessions is, what do these names mean to us? Now, if Allah is Al-Adl, the just, so the first thing we need to do is to strive for impartiality. So in every decision and interaction, we aim for fairness as much as we can, because we know that we have our flaws, our deficiencies, our knowledge is limited, our resources are very limited, and yet the intention, what is really important here is the intention. Do we intend to impose any kind of unfairness on others or not? So what is very important is the heart here, right? So, and thank God that God does not really, order us according to our deeds, but according to our intentions. Second thing is universal order. So you recognize that your actions have consequences that ripple outwards. And that's very important. So you might think, what's the big deal of me, adding 2 or 3 oranges on a scale? It's not a big deal. It won't harm anyone. I know, for example, the owner of the supermarket is adding 3, 4 oranges that I would just, sneak into my bag. It's not going to be a big deal for him. It will not cause him any harm. it could be true that this man may never know about it. He will never be affected by the deed, but it's your heart that will be affected. And here also we have this ripple effect that any bad deed has its own, energetic aura around us and around the world and our surroundings. And that is why Sayyidina Rasulullah has demanded that we become very meticulous about the food that we eat and its sources. Why is that? Because food, one of the reasons, I'm not saying that this is the only reason, but one of the reasons is that food has energy, right? So food from a bad source, from a wrong source, would actually feed your energy and body and your aura with haram, with negativity, right? That would then be shown in everything that you do. So, and specifically your heart. So for the heart to keep, shining, and for the heart to keep pure, we have to actually maintain this kind of meticulousness. All right. Next thing is speak truth with full awareness. So deliver truth, even when difficult, understanding the full scope of intentions and potential outcomes, just as Al-Adl judges with complete knowledge, right? Let us see the application of the name Al-Muqsit for us. So first, champion the oppressed actively. And this is something that we should remind ourselves, especially these days, where we see how that there are innocent souls that are being oppressed, slaughtered on daily basis. So those who are in a situation that can actually intervene and proactively intervene and stand with those whose rights have been infringed, they should actually do so, and they should seek to restore their well-being. Another thing is address root causes of imbalance. It's not only enough to stop the injustices that happen, it should also acknowledge and dismantle the systems of privilege and power that perpetuate injustice. The third thing here is seek restorative justice with mercy. So it's not only you don't really do justice because you're vindictive, because you want to see that person burn in hell only, but it should also be a process of healing and reestablishment. All right, so the box here says true justice begins within. So the journey towards embodying divine justice and equity starts internally. It requires a profound balancing of the self integrating the ego's desires with the soul's higher purpose. But that's a journey on its own. Now, the last thing here, before we move on to a certain very interesting topic that has to do with those two names, is the personal reflection, right? So it's very important that you reflect on the names and to try to cultivate, this kind of justice. You can ask yourself these questions, for example, where is there imbalance in your life or not? So you reflect on areas where your actions or thoughts or relationships lack the equilibrium of Al-Adl. Are you living in accordance with universal order? As a mother, for example, or as a parent, are you really establishing Al-Adl in the way you are treating your kids or not, for instance? If you're a school teacher like myself, is that something that you implement with your students, or do you have certain preferences, or you're against someone for any reason? So you need to, you need to reconsider all that. Have you acted unjustly or inequitably? And if yes, then how can you rectify this? All right. How can you be more fair and equitable? That's a very important. Or as you explore ways to actively listen, truly understand diverse perspectives, seek a restorative healing rather than mere retribution, and so on. And then the divine mirror, your potential for growth. You recognize this reflection as a divine mirror, revealing not only your current distance from perfect divine balance, but also your immense potential to grow, integrate, and manifest Al-Adl and Al-Muqsit within your being. Allahu Akbar. I don't know if you can hear this. The Adhan al-Isha, the Azan, all right, the calling for prayer. I know some of you are living in this and you rarely hear the Adhan. I'm here in Egypt and I have this privilege, alhamdulillah. All right. So now comes the interesting part. Why is there injustice if Allah is just? That's a very, very, very important question. And actually, it is also a doorway for al-shaytan. All right, let me tell you something here before we proceed. Now, during the Second World War, and of course, you know, in the Second World War, millions of people have been subjected to, you know, massacres and deaths, and the death rates, you know, reached its calamity. And so what happened is that lots of people have turned to, you know, certain philosophies like existentialism by Sartre and, you know, atheism. And it all started with this question: if Allah is just, if there's God in the first place, how is it that He allowed such horrendous acts to happen? Especially when people, you know, they saw dead bodies all around, and they saw how unfairly some people were treated, and all that stuff. It was really a very difficult time. And if the person doesn't really have a good answer to this question, it can open doors, you know, to Satan to actually, you know, sneak in and have a full control over your mind and heart. And again, this reminds me that we are living in a very difficult time, where on daily basis we see how people are being massacred and slaughtered, and that difficult time that Gaza is actually going through, along with different parts of the world. May God, you know, punish those who actually started all that, and may He restore peace all around the world. I mean, but then again, that is why this question is very, very important for us to answer. Let me go back to the PowerPoint here and see if we can actually make it clear. All right. First thing is, because humans have free will. Again, if you remember in some of our previous episodes, I always, you know, like drew attention to the importance of understanding the rules of, I don't want to call it a game, but it is sort of a game this life is, right? So we have this game in terms, I'm not saying that it's trivial or unimportant. That's not what I mean by the word game. But what I mean by the word game is that this life has certain rules, and it is a temporary kind of set of rules that God has set and that we have accepted. Okay, and so we need to remember those rules every now and then. Otherwise, we'll think that things went wrong, but actually nothing went wrong. These are the rules. So God He is all-powering. He has full power, uncontrolled power. He has full capacity and ability to do whatever He wants. That's true. However, He, subhanahu wa ta'ala, has decreed that He will also give humans free will, and that He, subhanahu wa ta'ala, will not intervene on every, you know, for every kind of matter. Yani, it's not like He's going to intervene on daily basis, not going to intervene in every single thing that happens. He did intervene at times, like, for example, you know, what happened to Sayyidina Ibrahim, for example, what happened to Sayyidina Musa when the sea, you know, was divided into two portions, when Sayyidina Ibrahim was, you know, thrown into hell, the fire, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed that the fire would not burn him. Then how is that? Because He wants to remind us that He is the all-powering. He wants to remind us of those attributes that He beholds, right? He has this unlimited power. However, He has also decided that this kind of, or the overpowering kind of abilities, and that He would, you know, like freeze them. He will freeze those powers, and He will freeze those abilities of Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the time being in this life. And on the other hand, he will give man the skills and the abilities and the tools to do the right and the wrong without his, what would I say, without his constant intervention. So his intervention can happen from time to time to remind us of his initial attributes, but then he has decided to freeze those interventions, not because he can't, subhanahu wa ta'ala, he always can, but because this is the deal, right? Otherwise, how else will we be responsible for our deeds? How else would there be a hereafter where we'll be asked to, where he will ask us about our deeds and reward and punish us? So this is how things go, right? So again, let us go back. So the first thing here that says here that why is there injustice if Allah is just? The first thing is because humans have free will. So Allah created us with choice. We can build or destroy, help or harm. Second thing is, much of what we call injustice, whether it's war, theft, oppression, whatever, is the result of human choices, not God's will for evil. That's a very important notion. Not just like what happened in the Second World War, for instance. Those people who, before they abandoned faith, if they just reflected 1 second and asked themselves, all right, who initiated the Second World War? Is it God? God permitted it. Okay, maybe this is why people would actually, astaghfirullah al-azim, some of them would actually blame, astaghfirullah al-azim, God. All right? They would say, all right, God, you're all powerful. Why didn't you stop this from happening? Because there's a deal. All right? I said I would not intervene constantly. All right. So there are lots of times when man will have the choice. Otherwise, why is this life created in the first place? So something else here, there's this verse that says, whatever befalls you of disaster is due to what your own hands have earned, but he pardons much. Right. So this is something that we need to contemplate. Something else is justice delayed is not justice denied. This is a very important notion. Allah gives humans time to repent or worsen their oppression until judgment comes. Right? So delaying justice is not justice denied. Again, there is this life with a certain span of time. And once it ends, there is infinity. And during that infinity, justice will prevail. All right, so another example here is the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh oppressed for decades, right? But his punishment came perfectly in a moment of divine justice. Another thing here, so that's the first reason. Second reason is that life is a test. It's not the final judgment. So if this world were the full picture, injustice would seem like a failure of divine justice, right? But this life is just page 1 of an eternal story. So Allah's complete justice unfolds in the hereafter. And mathematically speaking, people know that anything over infinity equals 0. So whatever number of years you live in this life, whatever number of years that these people have been suffering, over infinity, we divide that over infinity, which is what we are promised after this life, then it will actually be equivalent to a 0. And those people who have suffered now, once their soul returns to Allah, if they are believers, God will ask them, have you ever been in any kind of torture? Have you ever been tortured even for a minute? And the answer will be never, Allah, because they have seen His mercy and they have seen the reward instantly once their soul leaves their bodies. So another verse here says, do you think Allah is unaware of what the wrongdoers do? He only delays them for a day when eyes will stare in horror. So that's a promise. And we will all witness this. We will see those people burn in hell. We'll see the kind of punishment that God will actually impose on them. Now, the hopeful note comes in: no tear, no pain, no wrong goes unnoticed. In Allah's justice, compensation is not forgotten and oppression is not ignored. It is only delayed because this is the deal. All right. Next. Another thing is Allah's wisdom is beyond our sight. So sometimes Allah delays justice or allows hardship to unfold a greater purpose we do not understand. And that's very important. It's enough to think that I have to understand, I have to comprehend for me to accept. Well, sir, no. You will always be short of understanding the full picture. So, and this is very clear in Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah says, you may hate something while it is good for you. We don't know, and God only knows. So an example is a door closing may lead you to a path of healing, purpose, or a deeper connection to Allah, but you only see it later. So stop believing in what you think is right. And there's this reflection. How many times have you thought this is unfair, only to look back months or years later and say, now I understand. All right. It may have seemed to be unfair at that moment in time, but then later on you will see what this thing brought into you. What is it that changed in you because of that phase that you have gone through? So stop thinking of yourself as God. Be humble. Understand that you do not see everything. You don't understand everything. You don't have the full picture. Only God does. And with humility, all right, ask Him to heal your heart if it is broken, to redeem your soul if it went astray, to lead you to the right path if you have wronged yourself. This is how a believer should behave with God, with humility, right? Humility opens doors for understanding. Now comes another question, all right? So you said that the Second World War is man-made. You said this is man-made. This and that was, man's decision. But what about the natural, what about the natural disasters? How can that be explained? So first of all, disasters. Disasters are so-called disasters, but this is how we see them, because we saw that this phenomena, for example, this earthquake, let's say, or this volcano, has destroyed my land. So I see it as a disaster. Fine. Again, what you see is not the reality. What you see is limited. What you see is not the full picture, right? Because guess what? Millions of years from now, that very place that was destroyed has actually been the place for oil and gas and gold and lots of other resources that will then benefit the entire creation or the globe. So again, those so-called quote-unquote disasters, they are part of Allah's balanced creation, right? Which is an implementation of the name Al-Muqsit, if you remember. So earthquakes, floods, and storms are not punishments by default. They could be, by the way. They could be punishments if God wants them to be. But in other cases, they're not. They're part of how the earth functions, regenerates, and maintains balance. So, and some, as I just said, bring long-term benefit like fertility, water cycles, even if in the short term they cause pain. So He created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He created everything and measured it with precise proportion. And the word everything is to be, contemplated. You cannot just read it like everything and in your belief. You have to pause here. You have to think of the word everything that God has stated in His Quran. So everything, like the insect this kind of, the ant that you stepped on and therefore ended its life. This very ant had a life, it had a family, and it also had a book in which every single step it took, every single grain of wheat it ate is written. Okay? So stop playing God, astaghfirullah al-azim, and be humble. You don't know everything. Second thing is, for the believer, every pain is purposeful. So even when a believer suffers through a disaster, it can either, one, purify sins, two, raise spiritual rank, or three, awaken the heart to return to Allah. This is what pain does to a believer. So what about children with time disasters? Okay, those people, those children, they go straight to Jannah, paradise, with no judgment. And in one of the hadith says, no fatigue, illness, anxiety, sorrow, or pain befalls a Muslim, even if it were the prick he receives from a thorn, but that Allah expiates some of his sins for it. Right? So everything happens for a reason. Okay, including even those children who die. First of all, the parents, they reach this rank and status in paradise that they would have never reached, no matter what they've done. And secondly, those children, as I said before, once their soul leaves the body, they are asked, have you been tortured? Do you still feel any pain? Do you remember any kinds of harm that you received? And the answer is no, nothing, zero. They don't feel a thing. They live for eternity with a joy that cannot be described. The next thing is, it's a wake-up call for reflection. So Allah sometimes shakes the earth to awaken hearts, and we've seen this happening several times. Keep asking yourself, when the earth shakes, and actually in Egypt it's very rare that we experience earthquakes, but it did happen this year several times, maybe twice. And one of them was significant, and it comes is, is this the end? Am I prepared to meet God? And this is a time when you actually retrospect, you keep contemplating. So they remind us that this life is temporary, fragile, and not the final home. It also reminds you of how fragile you are and how in need you are of God. Okay, so that is another reason why such occurrences happen. Now comes the last part of today's session. I'm sorry if it was a long one, but I think this one is really important, and it's Surah Al-Kahf, right? Which the Kahf is a very important surah in the Quran, and it's all about seeing the full picture, something that humans are incapable of doing. Only Allah can. So one of the most powerful Quranic proofs that we don't always understand Allah's justice, but He always has a reason, is the story of Sayyidina Musa and Al-Khidr, who is the knowledgeable person that he came across, and they had this journey together. And if you read Surah Al-Kahf from verses from 60 to 82, you will understand the following. The Khidr, this knowledgeable person, the three things that seemed unjust from the surface of it. Looking at those deeds, you may think that first thing was he damaged the boat that belonged to poor fishermen. Imagine, right? And this was the only source of income for them, and he ruined it. He damaged it. Second thing, he killed a young boy. Imagine that, which is actually what we see and witness, right? And we keep saying, how could God, permit it to happen? We see lots of children being, slaughtered and all that. Third thing is he rebuilt a wall for ungrateful people. So these are the three deeds that he actually committed, and we'll get to know that all three deeds were actually, declared to him by God. And Sayyidina Musa, alayhi salam, he was shocked, and he protested at the apparent injustice. All right, but then came the truth. Number one, the boat was saved from being seized by a tyrant. So this act that from the surface looked to be so that it is so unjust. How could you damage a boat that belongs to poor fishermen? Put poor between brackets. And instead of being kind to them, instead of helping them, you're damaging their only source of accomplishment or of money or wealth. That could seem unjust, but in reality, what lies beneath the surface is that he did this to save the boat from being seized by a tyrant, and then they can fix it later, and then they have their source of income saved. The same thing young boy, or later get to know that this boy would have grown up to be a tyrant to his parents. And this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed to Sayyidina al-Khidr, and this kind of information was hidden from Sayyidina Musa, which is exactly what happens to us human beings, right? God knows that this child, for example, would be a tyrant to his parents, and somehow there was this accident and the boy was killed. All right, and the parents may not know that had he lived, it would have been a source of torture, a source of pain, of suffering to them. They don't know, and they would live their life with one of two things: either they would comply to God's, a decree, and they would humbly receive this, and after some pain and tears, they would reconcile and they would actually accept what God has written for them, or they would live their life, continuously angry and complaining and defying the fact that God has demanded their son to be gone. In all cases, what God has demanded and what He has decreed would happen, and it's up to us either to accept and believe in His names. That is why we're studying those names, so that when anything happens to us, we believe in His names, even if we don't understand the wisdom behind the deeds, but we believe that He is the wise. So whatever happens, there's a wisdom behind it. The last thing is the wall. The wall covers a treasure meant for orphans. And by rebuilding the wall, he's actually preserving this treasure to be later handed to these orphans. So what is the lesson? The lesson is what seemed like evil was actually mercy in disguise. So again, we have to receive God's decrees and His and the fate that He demands on us with humility. Sayyidina al-Khidr tells Sayyidina Musa, I did not do it of my own accord. That is the interpretation of what you could not bear with patience, right? So he is here declaring the fact that God has made him know the reasons behind all those deeds. What are the key takeaways for novice Muslims and for all of us actually? If even a prophet like Sayyidina Musa, peace be upon him, couldn't see the wisdom at first, how can we expect to understand every hardship instantly? So yes, we do ask God to reveal the wisdom sometimes in order to, ease in our hearts and to soften, the pain and all that. But at times we'll not be able to understand except maybe after our death. When we, go to the afterlife, then only then all these realities will be exposed to us. But for now, all we have to do is cling on tight to the names of Allah. So, but just like the story unfolded with truth and purpose, so will your life if you trust in Al-Adl. This is how important this name is. This is how important our belief in God and His names are. So this is also how important attending such sessions would be for your understanding in your life and your journey with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I would like to end this session with a short dua. So as we reflect on the stories of Surah Al-Kahf, we are reminded that our perception is often a mere fragment of a greater divine tapestry. So whether in moments of ease or trial, may we learn to surrender with trust, seek wisdom, humility, to walk forward, knowing that lies beyond our understanding rests perfectly